Evening all, Daniel Hand here, RPG therapist, and we're going to kick off our exploration of RPG therapy by first of all taking a brief look at those three letters, R, P and G. What do they stand for, what are they all about, and, why do we care? So the first question's easy. RPG stands for role-playing game. In other words, a game in which participants play roles. Usually the roles of fictional characters in a story of some form or another. Think of it a bit like children playing pretend. When I was a kid and Power Rangers was the new big thing, my friend Robert and I spent just about every lunchtime going, "It's morphin' time! Ah! Shouting out the names of dinosaurs and swinging imaginary weapons at non-existent monsters. That right there is a role-playing game. A couple of minds invested in a story, playing the roles of characters within that story. I was always the Black Ranger because he had an axe that turned into a gun, and Robert was always the Red Ranger because he liked to be in charge. And with him, I had some of the best fun of my life. There are many different kinds of RPGs out there. You've got computer games, live action roleplay, play by post, which is incidentally the way I got involved in RPGs. But here we're mainly interested in tabletop role-playing games, or TTRPGs. There are countless RPGs out there, from one-page single-player games to epically complex box sets of rules and mechanics, and they cover every genre imaginable, from high fantasy to sci-fi, all the way down to gritty reimaginings of modern warfare, and even, intimate tales of romance. But in reality, they all follow the same principle of Robert and my games of Power Rangers. Participants assume the identity of characters within a story and interact with the fictional world that story presents. The only difference here is that the characters tend to be entirely of the player's own imaginings, rather than simply copying figures from a favourite television programme. But, side note, there is plenty of scope for that too. And also, here players describe their actions rather than, running across the playground and swinging sticks at bushes. The main mechanical aspect of RPGs usually comes in the form of dice. When a player wants their character to do something difficult or dangerous or cool, or, any combination thereof, they roll some dice, and the result determines what happens next. It might be good, it might be bad, it might be really bad, but the point is, you can tell the story, you can describe your character and what they do, but you can never be 100% sure of how things are going to play out. That's the other big difference to our game of Power Rangers. Whereas back then, we decided when we got hit and when the monster finally exploded. Here, the dice are the ultimate arbiters of success and or failure. The great thing about RPGs is that they allow for a ton of creative activities. You've got the roleplay, obviously, and this can involve gesticulating wildly or putting on funny voices, or, shouting out the names of dinosaurs. But you've also got the art of storytelling, world building, improv, interpersonal and social skills, maths from when you need to add up all those dice, art, cooking, music, cosplay, the list goes on and on. But in reality, that's pretty much it. That's an RPG.
But Daniel, I hear you say, this all sounds so simple and straightforward. Why are you making such a big deal out of it?
To which I say, because that little description neglects to mention all the organisation, paperwork and time that most RPGs require. And oh my god, do RPGs take up a lot of time. Think about it. Already you've got two aspects to consider. You've got the game, which requires all players to be at least partially au fait with the rules and the mechanics, how it all works, right from the get-go, or else nobody will have a clue what they're supposed to be doing. And you've also got the roleplay, which requires everyone to know who their characters are, who each other's characters are, what the parameters of the fictional world are. You know, is it a grimdark fantasy setting or a brightly coloured superhero adventure? And what are they trying to achieve within the story? And there's just so much paperwork. To create a character, you need to fill out a character sheet, which can involve tracking literally dozens of discrete pieces of information. As the game progresses, you have to take copious notes, or else run the risk of forgetting some really important aspect of the story's progress. And that's nothing as compared to all the preparation that goes into creating the game's world and the actual adventures that the characters are going to go on. Robert and I were already intimately familiar with the Power Rangers, with their world, their fiction, and the rules of what the game was going to be, all before we even started playing. You know, how hard was it ever going to be? Punch the little bad guys until the big one turns up, then join forces and punch him really hard. Here, the only way to get everybody on the same page is for everybody to read through all of this. All this. Or, good lord, this. I mean, actually this one's really straightforward, but you get the point. And this is probably where you start to realise why more mental health practitioners haven't simply picked up a copy of the nearest RPG and started using it with their clients. They're intimidatingly dense and require a concerted effort from everyone involved if they're going to be made to work. Don't get me wrong, that investment in time and brain power is one of RPG's biggest selling points. They encourage a group of people to get together for an extended period of time and really immerse themselves in this collective experience. But it's a lot. Too much for any realistic interpretation of the therapeutic process, where one person talks to another person about life, the universe, and everything for 50 minutes. And even that doesn't cover all of the different types of RPG out there. Each game has its own unique quirks, goals, and emphases. It doesn't matter how obscure or eccentric your interests are. Somebody somewhere has made an RPG about it. You just have to find it. If you want a broader explanation of what RPGs can look like, my friend Corey over at the Order of the Dead Unicorn has put an excellent video together on the topic, link below. I highly recommend you pop on over and give it a watch. So, what does all this mean? Well, it means that if you're a mental health practitioner and you want to use RPGs as part of your client work, well, you've got quite a job on your hands. Some way, somehow, you have to take all that stuff and boil it down into something that can actually be used in a therapeutic setting without getting in the way of the client's therapy. It can be done, of course it can. You know, that's why I'm here. But there's a reason RPG therapy is only now really starting to take off in popularity. So there you have it, the joy and the horror of tabletop role-playing games. They are so much fun, and I'm sure you've already spotted some cool therapeutic potential there. But it does take a bit of elbow grease to mould them into anything resembling a sensible form of intervention. Don't worry, we'll get there. Everybody, thanks so much for watching. If you're interested in this topic, by all means, like the video, share it, subscribe to the channel, do all the YouTubey things. My book, Role-Playing Games and Psychotherapy, A Practitioner's Guide, is available wherever you get your reading material. If you're interested in becoming an RPG therapist, that's a great place to start, link below. You can also sign up for my monthly-ish RPG therapy newsletter, Handwriting, again, link below. And if you'd like to get in touch with me, either with thoughts on the channel, with a view to getting some RPG therapy training, or even if you're a prospective client looking to start therapy, you can find me at my website, monomythcounselling.co.uk. I'd love to hear from you. So, until next time, take it easy, don't do anything I wouldn't do, and have a good one. Cheers.